Ahoy, motherfuckers. Welcome to Hindsight. I'm Derek. As always, I'm joined by Brandon, and we are joined by the one, the only, the I don't even have words to quantify just how wonderful this person is, but my sister, my partner in crime, like been there since makes everything better. From the single simulcast, Shante, how are you doing?
I'm great. Burr, 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 burr. No. No.
Oh, where's my iPad when I need it? God
No,
damn
I'm
it.
great. I'm great though. I'm happy to be on. Kind of as far as a movie, but still happy to be on.
Ooh, this movie. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'd never seen this movie before, and I saw it today.
You didn't see the
And
version that
Rashani,
we
you
saw.
clearly have a type.
What?
You have a type.
I ain't got no type. What?
The Crow. Now this, you got a type.
What's the type? Because you have a type. You have a real type.
Yeah, I like good movies.
No, wait, fuck you. What's the type that I got? Like you're saying I choose. You're saying The Crow was a bad movie?
No, I like
So-
The Crow. I like this movie.
So wait.
But
Now
you
I'm
have
curious.
a type.
What's my type?
Weird white dudes.
Oh. Well, I mean, if a movie came out in the 80s and the 90s, it was a pretty good chance that it was going to be starring a weird white dude. So,
Not like these two weird.
also, does Brandon Lee really count as a weird white dude?
He had a white face, so he's white to me.
I mean,
So,
it's definitely he's kind of around. He would be kind of around there in a way.
yeah, I mean, when you see him without the face paint on, he definitely can make it into a mosh pit and not get thrown out. I was at a rap show once and a mosh pit broke out. That was scary. That's something that you don't expect, like, ever. I was dismayed. Anyhow, today, the movie that Brandon liked but doesn't understand why I put it on my favorite movies of all time list is The Professional. However, with that said, we didn't watch The Professional. We watched Leon, The Professional. And that shit's important because The Professional is the version of Leon, The Professional that Americans got to see. But Leon, The Professional is the extended version that came out everywhere else. And okay, let's do this. The synopsis for Leon, The Professional is this. IMDb says the synopsis of The Professional is Matilda, a 12-year-old girl, is reluctantly taken in by Leon, a professional assassin, after her family's murdered. An unusual relationship forms as she becomes his protege and learns the assassin's trade. My version of this, my synopsis, the hindsight synopsis is Gary Oldman tries his best to save a movie in which Natalie Portman is written to be a 12-year-old girl who really wants to fall in love and fuck an assassin. Did I miss something?
Mm-mm.
No.
At least the assassin didn't reciprocate.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So here's the
At least in
thing.
the version I watched, he didn't.
Here's the
Yeah,
thing
he
about he did not. But here's the thing. According to Jean Reno, who played Leon, he decided to play Leon as if he was a little bit like he was mentally delayed and emotionally repressed. He felt that this would make audiences relax and realize that he wasn't someone who would take advantage of a vulnerable young girl. Reno claims that for Leon, the possibility of a physical relationship with Matilda is not even conceivable. And as such, during the scenes when such a relationship is discussed, Reno very much allowed Portman to be emotionally in control of the scenes. With that said, Luc Besson, the guy who wrote the movie, he didn't write it that way. He wrote it so then it was like really uncomfortable as far as the relationship that Matilda was trying to build with Leon. And watching it now as opposed to watching it when it initially came out in 1994 when I was 14, it's cringe.
Definitely.
So
from like from the opening, from when you see Natalie Portman interacting with Jean Reno, it is just like, oh shit. He really shot it, wrote it, directed her in this kind of way. Like it's right there.
And like from the very, like you said, very beginning, she's looking at him before situations even conspire that cause them to have to come together. She's looking at him like he can save her, or that he can rescue her from the life that she's in. And there's a scene later on in the movie where I noted that she's 12. She's 12. And there's a scene where she says that she's falling in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks how she knows. And she mentions essentially that instead of having a knot in her stomach like she usually has, she feels warm. And I want so badly to believe that that is her saying that she's feeling parental love because he's looking out for her in a way that nobody else ever has. But I mean, to me, it seems like parental love. But since she's never felt parental love before, she just conflates those feelings into an Eros level of love. But she says the knot in her stomach is gone. And now she just feels warm, which that was a thing. I would have liked it more if she said, I just feel peaceful, but I still feel like she's definitely mixing the two up until she goes too far and starts trying to get the dude to kiss her and starts telling folks that he's her lover and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if this is based on some type of true story.
I hope not.
Because that seems like the only reason why someone would write this. Like I read a lot. I mean, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts.
Do you listen to Wine, Dine, and Storytime?
No, but let me write that down.
Yeah, you should. One of the things that I found out from walking around Twitter recently is there's a lot of good true crime podcasts. So there's that one. There's Podcast Riddle. I'll give you a list. Like there's a whole group of people who just do true crime. And I'm like, damn, white folks eat this up. And Brandon.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I listen to the last podcast on Left every week.
Yeah, that's one of them.
I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and this thing is not that uncommon in that realm. I guess I should say. So it came off to me as someone who'd never seen this movie before. Maybe there was some type of serial killer around that time, like in the early 90s, late 80s, that this story was based off of, because a lot of those stories have like young girls. Usually it's like 18, 17, 16, 15 age, not 11, 12, 13, but it's usually like, 15, 16, 17, 18 age. A lot of those true crime stories have like a lot of young girls that age who are like somehow intrigued with this serial killer and tries to get around the serial killer, follow it around. Sometimes they have statutory stuff. Like it that's very common in the serial killer, true crime genre. So I was just curious if that was based on somebody real. Because other
No.
than that, I don't know why you would like make that story up. That's a weird story to make up if it's not based on anything to me.
Yeah.
It's like a weird director's choice. That's a weird way. That's a choice if it's not based on, like, if it's something based on true, it's like, okay, I'm depicting what happened in real life. But if it's not, it's like, that's a weird choice to make.
Yeah. And I mean, in all of the shows that I listen to, which also shout out to the Reverie True Crime Podcast, good folks. These stories that they're telling are, I mean, okay. The stories they're telling are truly dark, and they're true crime, and usually you walk away from them like, look. And when I was younger and watched this movie, it really didn't hit me just how bad of a situation that Matilda was growing up in. Like, the house she lived in was a literal shithole. I didn't notice until I watched it this very last time. I didn't notice. I didn't see the writing on the wall. But folks have literally done math problems on the wall. The bathtub is all black and just nasty. The walls are all cracked up and gross, and they got roaches in their cereal box. But to begin the movie, Leon. And it's John Reno. That makes sense. I've been calling him Reno my whole life because that's right outside of my state. But Leon gets a call from Tony, who is a mafia head and also like his handler, and he tells him that there is a guy who isn't answering the phone, and so we figure that if you go and you see this guy, he'll finally answer the phone call. This guy shows up at a hotel every Tuesday and to meet up with his girlfriend. Somehow, this guy and his squad of bodyguards have set up camera systems in this hotel that allow them to monitor when people are coming up and down the stairs. Don't know if they paid somebody for that beforehand or what. However, it doesn't really matter because Leon is pretty much, he's like the wind. He pulls
How
up
do
on.
you know if you're good at serial killing? Like, how do you test that?
You don't have a choice.
Maybe.
Or
Yeah,
you're a psychopath or sociopath.
Yeah, I figure serial killing is just about the buildup. You start with one thing and kind of realize you can get away with that thing, and then you get away with that thing and get away with that thing, and then there you go.
I'm reading a book for Ratchet Book Club called The Cartel. Now we're on The Cartel Part 2, Tell It to Murder Mamas. And one of the things that gets discussed in the book is how because the murder mamas are a bunch of hit women, how they got started. And basically what they say is the first time they did it, they felt sick to their stomach, but the second time it felt a little bit easier. Like the dude said on Oz. He was like, when I killed the first person, I threw up. By the fifth time, I didn't feel anything. I felt great. So some folks just have that they're built for it, I guess, where it's just you get used to it over time. I mean, it's the same way that somebody who was in Vietnam, unfortunately, as time went on, you just get used to what you have to do to survive. And if it's your job, then it's your job. However, the bodyguards weren't prepared for Leon. And so the squad of bodyguards and two people of color, and one of them is indigenous American, and they nicknamed him Tonto, which is fucked up.
Very.
Tonto, the indigenous American, is guarding like the bottom floor, and Leon sneaks up on him and grabs his walkie-talkie and has him call up to the front. And so the guy who's hiding out, Mazzoli or something like that, says, "Yo," and the indigenous American bodyguard is like, "There's somebody down here to that needs to talk to you. He's coming up." And he says, "How's he look?" And then the indigenous bodyguard's like, "He looks serious." And then he's dead. Also, the black guy who's bodyguarding is dead. They don't even show him dying. It's just implied. He went down the stairs and then you hear 2 shots. He hangs somebody from ceiling tiles, which is incredible because those ceiling tiles must have been strong as shit. And he
How
shoots
is all this shit going down in an apartment building and no one calls the cops for 50 fucking minutes?
This is the question. How
Even
is
in New York in 1994. Even in New York in 1994.
how does 4 or 5 bodyguards that are left over run out onto the balcony, and then like this steel door, like the ones they put in front of gross or in front of bodegas when they close up at night? How's that just slide down over a penthouse balcony?
I think that was part of his security system.
How's he have a security system in someone else's hotel?
Because if you're rich and you book the same hotel room every week, it's your room.
Well, yeah. So all it is, oh, my watch won't mind its own business. So then after all of that, it's just all he wants him to do, dial this number, talk to this dude. The dude's girlfriend comes out and is like, "I'm gonna talk to you later, baby," and she just bounces out on his ass. And on the way home,
Was that his girlfriend?
No, but
Okay.
we're gonna call her his girlfriend for the day at the very least.
Okay.
She was. I don't want to imply that she was a sex worker. We don't know.
She didn't seem like she cared too much about that nigga.
She dipped out quickly, hella quickly. And on the way home, Leon gets his 2 quarts of milk from the bodega. And as he's walking up the stairs to his apartment, he sees a kid holding a cigarette while some fanciful Final Fantasy type music plays in the background. This is Matilda, and she says hi as he comes by, and he asks her why she hid her cigarette, which she's holding. I already said that. And she said it's because the building's full of rats and she doesn't want her father to find out. And I wanted to say that what she had was a black eye, but it's at the very least bruises on her face. And she says she fell off her bike. Leon goes into his apartment, and Stansfield comes out of Matilda's apartment. And at this time, his partner, Malky, is telling Matilda's father that at some point, the 100% pure dope that they had became 90% pure dope. And so we're going to need you to figure out what happened to the rest of it because somebody cut like 10%. Her dad's like, "I'm telling you, I don't know what's going on." He's like, Malky's like, "Look, dude, you don't want me to go get this guy's attention because if I go get his attention, he's got this thing where he sniffs people out and it's really freaky and he's never wrong and you don't want to deal with that." And her dad is like, "I don't know what's going on." So Stansfield comes over and he starts sniffing all around his body, sniffing all his neck and all that kind of stuff. Turns out the sniffing thing was completely improvised, which is why her dad looked so shocked when he started doing it. And Stansfield's like, "You know what? I believe you. But what I'm going to need you to do is find out who did cut our dope by noon tomorrow." And then Malky and Stan leave, and her father stands at the railing and yells down to them in a full apartment building. Well, obviously the apartment building ain't shit, but he stands there and yells down to them about, "I didn't do nothing with the drugs. Who knows what you're talking about?" And then he turns around and slaps Matilda in the face for smoking. The next day, because we're just going to skip past Leon sitting in a chair with his glasses on and sleeping with his eyes open, basically, because that shit was wild. He's an assassin through and through. I guess we didn't skip past it. Anyhow, the next day, instead of getting the fuck out of town, Matilda's dad, like, does nothing. I mean, he has sex with his wife while telling her that he screwed up. But other than that, he does nothing. And Matilda's school calls and asks why she hasn't been at school in 2 weeks. And Matilda acts like she's her mom and says, because she's dead. Which is a really stupid lie that a kid would think was suitable for this circumstance. Your child hasn't been to school in 2 weeks, Mr. Jones. I wanted to know what was going on. He got kidnapped. Yeah. And then we couldn't pay the ransom. And so they sent us his body parts. Yeah. And couldn't get there in time. So he's dead.
So I might have missed if you said this, because I think I missed it in the show. Are these people gangsters? Are they DEA agents?
They the cops.
They just regular ass cops?
They just regular ass. I don't think they're DEA because they work in just well, I don't know if DEA works in the police department. I don't know how cops work. I don't fuck that shit.
They busted that man's house and shot a 4-year-old.
They bust in that man's house and shoot every fucking body. He took some drugs. Stan took some drugs and said to them, "Yo, do you like Beethoven?" And Malky's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "You should live more. You should listen to Beethoven." And then Stan literally goes into her house and pretty much murders everybody in the house while singing along to a Beethoven beat that is only in his head. And then after that, he comes back out and he talks with Matilda's dad. And he's like, "Yo, I said noon. It's 12:01. Sorry we're late. Where's the dope?" And her dad is like, "I told you, I don't know where the dope is." So they start to tear the joint up looking for the dope. And then Matilda's dad stupidly has a shotgun that he's been hiding in the corner of his room. And he thinks that this is a good time to pull it out. And so he shoots Stan in the shoulder and shoots another dude in the back. And Willie, a Rastafarian white guy who let his hair get all dirty and clumped up, gets scared and shoots with his machine gun through the walls and shoots Matilda's little brother that's been hiding under the bed. Hold on one second.
Can you hear it? It's like when you put your head to the grass, you can hear it crawling. You can hear the insects. Do you like Beethoven? Couldn't really say. I'm gonna play you some. We said noon. I've got 1 minute past. You don't like Beethoven. You don't know what you're missing. Overtures like that get my juices flowing. So powerful. But after his openings, to be honest, he does tend to get a little fucking boring. That's why I stopped! Toss the apartment.
Gary Oldman, I just want to say this right now without any hesitation, is the MVP of this entire movie. Every opportunity he got to be great, he was like, "I'm not passing it up for none of you motherfuckers." I just want to congratulate him for everything that he's done in this movie and everything he brought to this movie, because without him, you know. So then he murders the father and loaded him with hella shots because the father took one shot at Garrett at Stan and fucked up his suit, like hit his shoulder. An old lady comes out of her apartment after it's all said and done and asks, why don't they leave that poor family alone? So Stan licks one shot right past her head into the window and tells her, he said, go back inside. Matilda's walking back from the store and sees the carnage in the apartment and walks right past the Leon's apartment. And she rings the doorbell and begs him to open the door. And he actually contemplates it. Like, what good can I bring to this before he lets her in? They see that there's one kid missing from the pictures and the guy's about to knock on Leon's door. But then Matilda turns on the Transformers hella loud. So the guy walks away. And another dude is like, yo, I'm going to go and ask a super about a missing little girl in the midst of a massacre. And I don't think that's wise. The cops come and Stan tells the Rasta man, Willie, to talk to the cops. And Willie asks, what should he tell them? And Stan says, tell them that we were doing our fucking jobs. Brandon, how'd you like the intro?
They murdered the entire group of people for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
For what? A kilo of coke? Was that even a kilo?
It was one. It was part of a whole, though. They wanted their whole 100% uncooked dope or uncut dope, and the dad lied. What I was wondering about was, what the fuck was the dad's job? Was he a cop? Was he just a side dude that they found randomly, like a parolee?
I thought he was a drug dealer.
I did not. He seemed too inept. What'd you think, Shantae?
The opening's fine. I don't know if the dude was a drug. It's unclear what his real job is. As far as the dad, it's unclear whether he was just supposed to be holding the dope, if he was supposed to distribute the dope at some point, or whatever. It's definitely unclear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just clear that he fucked with the wrong motherfucker and died for it. Like, that's clear.
Mm-hmm.
But what his job description is unusual.
So Matilda is in Leon's apartment, and he's like, I'm sorry about your family. And she basically says, fuck them all except for my brother. That motherfucker was foreign. He was blameless. And she asks him what his name is, and he tells her, and she's like, cute name. Then she opens up his gun bag and declares that the shit inside of it is cool and asks him to teach her how to be a hitman. So while she's asleep, he contemplates murdering her. This happens on the extended version. I had never seen this before, and I laughed. Like, he holds the gun to her head and really thinks about just shooting her in her sleep, but doesn't. He does tell her the next day that she has to get the fuck out after breakfast. And she's like, if you teach me how to be a cleaner, I'll teach you how to read.
I was very confused about that part. Why did he run up on her while she was asleep?
Because she's more trouble than she's worth. She ain't his kid.
Yeah. I figured it was, he could end it right now, get rid of her. She's already, like, her family's already dead. Nobody's really gonna care, and it would just be over. And he could just move on with this. He could just continue with his life being a hitman and not be responsible for this 12-year-old girl.
But he has a heart.
No, he has the rule: no women, no children.
Yeah, that's his heart.
That's the type of shit that'll get you fucked up in that situation. And she tells him that he's responsible for her and that he could have let her die at his door the day before. And I'm like, he had a gun to your head, so he ain't that responsible. But he tells her that he doesn't think that she can do it. So he gives her a gun and tells her good luck. He works alone. And then he says, I don't think you can do it. So she goes to the window and licks off 6 shots blindly into the street.
Insane.
Oh, wow.
So they have to move like expeditiously. And so he tells her to never do that again or he'll break her head because there's rules to the game. And they check into another hotel. And she signs him in and uses the name of a girl at her school that she hates. so that then if something happens, she'll take the heat.
That's smart.
Leon asks how old Matilda is, and she tells him 18. Now, again, this is in the extended version. He says she looks very young, and she asks if he wants to see her license. She also says that she doesn't want to be a hitman. She just wants him to teach her the theory of being a hitman. So he goes and gets a training sniper rifle from Tony and teaches Matilda how to use it. Rule number 1, never open up the scope until the last minute because it reflects light. She asks who she should hit. Not what, but who she should hit. I just want to point out from the very beginning that Matilda's a little bit scary. Like
natural.
Shoo, boy. She draws down on some black children, but because the rule is no women, no kids, she aims at a jogger in yellow and orange, who I guess is somebody important because he had hella security. Also, at this point in time, I Googled whether or not the phrase up the yin yang was racist. Because I'm not sure. And Google didn't know. So to err on the side of caution, I don't use it. But he did have he had hella security. Let's just say that. Anyway, she shoots the jogger and it's a paintball. She didn't know it was a paintball. She just drawing down on motherfuckers. I don't think Leon told her it was a fucking paintball until she shot him. Because she turned to him immediately afterwards and was like, "Can we shoot with real bullets now?"
No.
And Leon is like, "Nah, we need to pack up and go. That's enough." Then he goes back and he sees Tony and he asks Tony to let him use his money someday because he wants to give some of it away to help out. And Tony's like, "It's your money. I'm just holding on to it like a bank, except better because banks get knocked off." And at that point, I realized Tony ain't got his fucking money.
Not at all. That money gone.
Point scene money gone. Was it The Wire where somebody was like, "Yo, the problem is when you hold on to somebody else's money, you start thinking it's your money." I don't remember where that came from, but it hits me every time I see Tony like, "Yo, I got your money and I'll dole it out to you in bits and pieces instead of just giving you the whole thing." But while they're talking, Leon sees Matilda talking to a stranger and he doesn't like that. So he tells her to stop cussing and stop smoking. And she says okay to both. He also tells her not to talk to the stranger that she's talking to because he looks like a weirdo. And then the scene happens where she tells him that she's fallen in love with him. And he asks how she knows. And she says that instead of having the knot in her stomach, she feels warm. Which, again, I'm just going to cloud that over to her just feeling safe. Leon gets up to go do another job. And while he's gone, Matilda watches him walk away. At least at first I thought that she felt parental love. And then she went downstairs and was talking to the front counter guy and they're talking about music. And he asks what her father does. And she tells him that he's a composer. And then she says, "But he isn't actually my father. He's my lover." Somebody wrote this. Luc Besson wrote this script. And that's not official. That whole part is just yuck. So after she tells him that they're not father and daughter, she goes back to her apartment and she's walking through. I thought she was getting clothes, but she's actually getting money to pay to get Stan and the rest of the cops hit. And while she's there, Stan and the DEA actually come back to her apartment to do not the DEA, but IA, Internal Affairs comes back. And so they get there and they're asking Stan, "Yo, can you walk us through what exactly happened here?" Yeah, this happens.
And we'll try to make this as short as possible. Now, if you'll just take us step by step through exactly what happened.
The guy was here, he went for his gun. Bang, we shot him.
Bang.
Where exactly were the kids?
I don't know. They should have been at school, don't you think?
But in your statement, you said you were the first man in. Didn't you see any kids?
The door was broken. What happened? Did you follow the procedure?
I lost a good man here. What the fuck do you want with me?
Cooperation.
I haven't got time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit! What cooperation? I'm at my office. Room 4602.
I got time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit. But now she knows the room that the office that he's in, and has a taxi cab follow Stan back to the police department, where she finds out that they're all cops. Leon gets back to the hotel, and Matilda's already there, and Leon gives her address, and she's like, it's pretty. And then there's a knock on the door, and it's the hotel manager with two men for backup, and he doesn't look happy at all. So they have to move expeditiously. And when they get to their next location, Matilda attempts to pay Leon to go and kill Stan and the cops who killed her family. And he tells her no, but that she could do it herself. And this, again, is in the extended version. He tells her that nothing to say once you kill someone. So she plays Russian roulette to threaten him into saying that he loves her. He snatches her hand away from her head right before she pulls the trigger, and a bullet goes into the wall. I've never seen this before. And seeing the regular version and then seeing the extended version, I was just like, this is so unnecessary. This is all so extraneous. Like, this movie was supposed to be an hour and 30 minutes long. I don't have time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit. But because it's the extended version, Leon introduces Matilda to Tony. And then he does like this take your child to work type montage where he takes Matilda to a hit at a dope dealer's house. And again, she shoots him with a paintball gun. And Leon gives her instructions like the second shot has to either hit the heart or the lungs. It can't still be in the stomach. You got to do a kill shot. And Leon gives her instructions before he kills the guy on his own. And then she burns up all the dope. So then he takes her out to dinner and she asks for a kiss. And he says no. And this is while she's also like guzzling champagne at a restaurant, an upscale restaurant, surrounded by a whole bunch of upscale white people who aren't batting an eye at this little girl telling this man, kiss me, and is guzzling down champagne and giggling and laughing like she's drunk off her ass. One thing that
They were drunk too.
Well, one thing I don't like about the movie is that it seems like it's completely unrealistic in regards to how people react to things that are right in front of their faces.
Mm-hmm.
You do see kind of a bunch of wild shit in New York in 1994.
Yeah, but one thing you ain't gonna see is a 12-year-old telling a old ass man, kiss me, and then getting drunk in front of you. Somebody should have stood up and been like, look, Buster, this is not the way. I don't have time for this Mickey Mouse bullshit. After that, because this is the extended version and it's so unnecessary in so many ways, they do a montage of Hitman door entries. And in the last Hitman door entry, the guy is overzealous, so he shoots through the door, like shoots holes through the door. So Leon tells Matilda about his ring trick and throws a grenade into the room. Then Matilda gets told by Leon that she needs to grow up and he needs to grow up, and he basically abandons her, more or less. So she lives alone for a while, goes out, buys milk, stuff like that. And then finally, she decides to just go run up on Stan on her own. So she leaves a note for Leon saying that I am going to the police department. If I don't make it, Here's the money for my brother. She goes in with a bunch of food like she's a pizza delivery person. And again, walks into a police department with a box of food and a bag of guns. And walks into the men's restroom. Nobody finds that weird.
Nope.
And she has a conversation with Stan.
Special delivery, huh? Let me guess. Chinese? Thai, maybe? I've got it. Italian food. What's your name, Angel?
Matilda.
Matilda, I want you to put the sack on the floor. Good. And now I want you to tell me everything you know about Italian food. And don't forget the name of the chef who fixed it for me.
Nobody sent me. I do business for myself.
So this is something personal, is it? Is it? What filthy piece of shit did I do now?
You killed my brother.
I'm sorry. And you want to join him?
No.
It's always the same thing. It's when you start to become really afraid of death that you learn to appreciate life. Do you like life, sweetheart?
Yes.
It's good. Because I take no pleasure in taking a life if it's from a person who doesn't care about it.
Stan, I've been looking all over for you, man. They said check upstairs, and I was upstairs. I came down.
I'm busy.
It's Malky, man. He's dead. Malky was making a buy for us from the Chinaman. Yo, but they got nothing to do with it, man. They told me this guy came from the outside. He was a pro. He was fast. He fucking came out of nowhere. Boom. Shoots the Chinaman dead in 2 seconds.
Easy, man. I'm a cop.
Then turns around and says something to Malky like,
No women, no kids.
I just wonder if Willie said that he said something like, no women, no kids. Or if he was just like, no women, no kids. But, neither here nor there. So basically, Stan is like, yo, I'm going to go check this out. You go ahead and take her up to my office. And he goes up to Stan's office and is sitting there with her while he's eating the pizza that she brought and also thumbing through her arsenal. And Leon comes in, punches the front desk guard in the face, goes upstairs, kills Willie, retrieves Matilda, gets back into the taxi that he was in, rides off. We'll be back to Hindsight after this brief break.
This is Wine, Dine, and Storytime. I'm Nydia.
I'm Dana. I'm Cindy, and we're your hosts.
Have you ruined a family gathering by asking what wine pairs well with eating a husband?
Are you the CEO of TMI? Have you ever been kicked under the table because you brought up your favorite dinner topic, atrocities throughout history? Then this podcast is perfect for you.
Each week, Dana and I share stories based on topics that include true crime, historical shenanigans, unexplained mysteries, and all things fascinating, while our amateur chef Cindy prepares themed dinners and pairs wines based on those topics.
Find us, the Wine, Dine, and Storytime podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and give us a follow.
I'm Paige, the host of Reverie True Crime. I tell stories of helpless victims, vicious killers, predators watching their prey before they strike, survivors, petty crimes, people we think we know who do the unthinkable, and the dangers that lurk not only in the dead of night, but in plain sight in the light of day. Every once in a while, I'll also tell stories of the frightening paranormal, elusive cryptids, haunted locations, and conspiracies that may be silly or thought-provoking. You can listen to Reverie True Crime wherever you're listening to this podcast. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Reverie Crime Pod, Facebook, Instagram, and even Tumblr at Reverie True Crime. Remember, stay safe, be aware of your surroundings at all times, and take care.
Scary ghosts, creepy serial killers, horrible horoscopes. Open Shutters is a creepy podcast guaranteed to make your skin crawl. Join hosts Barry Marino and Philip Landry as they take you on a hair-raising journey recorded in the most haunted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana. Open Shutters is available on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, and many others. Enjoy the view from the open shutters, but don't fall out of the window.
Are you fascinated by true crime like us?
If so, check out our podcast, Crime Divers, hosted by me, Jill.
And me, Laura.
Look out for new episodes every Tuesday when we discuss true crime from around the world.
So what are you waiting for? Come join us as we dive in.
It's time to feel the rage. Join us on Film Rage, where we talk movies, current releases, coming attractions, streaming, and classic films as well. Directors and actors beware, as you cannot hide from the rage. My name is Bryce, and I'm part of the Film Rage crew, which also includes Jim.
Hey, hey.
And Murray.
Yo. Why is it you always talk all the time? I can't understand why your voice is so...
This is the Merman, the voice of reason. These two can't agree on anything most of the time. Some movies are Mondo, some are just... Every week, something is going to make us rage. Join us every Wednesday and
feel the rage.
God. So, Shantae, you saw Leon the Professional, right?
Yes.
So after that is the scene that I refused to watch because it just felt like the scene where she literally asked him to take her virginity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we skipped past that, like her getting all dressed up in the dress that he bought her and everything and asking him to take her virginity, which is just like not cool in a billion different ways. I just want to make sure that was that scene because I don't remember or I didn't see it. But they.
It's that scene. I mean, I mean, that happens, and he tells her, he recounts why he ended up in America. I think during that scene where, she's saying what she's saying, but then he's telling her, he tells her this whole story about how there was a girl who he liked. I'm assuming in Italy, because I'm assuming he's Italian. There was a girl that he liked who came from a well-to-do family, whose father did not like Leon because Leon did not come from a well-to-do family. And the father kills the daughter because she's still seeing Leon. And he ends up in jail for like 2 days or 2 weeks or whatever. But they let him out because it gets ruled as an accident. And so then Leon rolls up on him with, I guess with like a sight or something, some kind of long form or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounded like. And he kills the dad. He says that he had an accident. And then he was on a boat or whatever and was out, and came to see, his dad here in America who was working for Tony. And that whole, and he's never had a girl. He says he's never had a girlfriend since then, and all this different kind of stuff. And specifically says to Matilda, that is why he would not be a good lover, which on the one hand, throughout the whole movie, I think you could say, okay, Leon is not with this shit at all. Like, he is not with it. But I feel like him telling her that somehow he has a deficiency of some sort because of his experience, excuse me, almost makes it seem like it almost calls into question the refusals that we've seen. Because I feel like without him saying that's why I wouldn't make a good lover, it almost sounds it's like, it could go either way. It could be him saying he wouldn't be a good lover for anyone, like this is just him acknowledging his inability to be that person now. Or is it about him not being a good lover to Matilda? And it's weird, and it feels weird. It's unclear. Or it's not even that it's unclear. It's just, I think it could go either way. And maybe that's the problem with this movie. And maybe that's something that Luc Besson did not think about. That on the one hand, you have your intention as a writer, as a director, but everybody else, once it goes out, everyone else is bringing their own experience to it, their own interpretations of what they're seeing, unless it's like really, really, really explicit. And it feels like it could go either way.
And it was stated that when the film was first tested in LA, the version that was screened was the extended version. And when they got to the scene where Matilda asked Leon to be her lover, the audience became extremely uncomfortable and began to laugh nervously, which completely destroyed the tone of the film. The film received terrible test scores at the screening, and as such, the producer and writer decided to cut the scene for theatrical release.
Yeah, I didn't see that scene.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. So when I first saw this movie, never saw that. Didn't see it till I still haven't seen it. I just know it happened. And I was like, nope. So knowing that there is an extended version, a director's cut, if you will, out there somewhere, knowing that this is out there, knowing that the Snyder cut was out there, makes me very put out, not just for this movie, but for other movies, which we'll discuss in just a little bit. But after that scene happens, after Willie's dead, because Leon comes in and kills him, and then he tells Matilda, I could if I would, but I can't, so I won't, basically. Y'all don't see my eyes rolling, but I hope you can hear it through. I hope you can feel the vibes of the side eyes and just the angst that I have about this. They go back to Tony's restaurant where Tony is throwing a birthday party for somebody. It can't be one of his kids because they're calling him by name. But they're all singing happy birthday and applauding and all that. And then a bunch of people walk into his restaurant and Stan comes in. And one of the reasons why this movie is so great happened right here.
I have a lot of respect for your business, Tony. When you've killed for us in the past, we've always been satisfied. And that's exactly why today is going to be very, very hard for me. I hope you'll excuse my mood. My man was killed right here on your turf. And the chinks tell me that the hitman was kind of the Italian type. So we figured that Tony might know something. Wait. There's more. You're gonna love this. A few hours later, a little 12-year-old girl comes into my office, armed to the teeth, with a firm intention of sending me straight to the morgue. And you know who came and got her in the middle of the afternoon, right there in my building? The very same Italian hitman. I'm dying to meet him.
I'm sorry. In 1994, the only villain that I only knew two villains that had really captivated me before 1994. And it was Hans Gruber and the Joker from the 1989 Batman. Alan Rickman didn't play Hans Gruber over the top at all. Stansfield is over the top. And he's over the top in a way that is so sinister that it's just like every time I hear it, I just giggle. Brandon, what did you think about Stansfield?
I didn't know what he was until we did this review. Even though I watched the movie, I was very confused to whether he was part of the law or against the law or in the law but against the law. I wasn't sure what was going on. I just know he was terrible. And it kept making me wonder, like, you watch all these movies in the 90s and TV shows, and like 90%, 95% of the TV shows and movies that got cops in them, they're all terrible. Like in the 90s, like every movie or TV show is dirty cop, bad cop, cop that goes too far, cop that doesn't listen to people, cop that's over aggressive, just over and over and over again, like every single thing. And then people go, oh, you know, but most cops are good cops. And I'm like, why is every movie bad cops? Like, y'all watch these movies and like watch all these bad cops. Like everything else in movie and TV shows, y'all believe when you see like stereotypical black people, you think, and you don't live around black people, you think, oh, that must be how black people are. Same thing with other races of people. But with the cops, it's like, oh, no, that's just TV. And this was another example of that.
Yeah, no, he really did make me believe that at the very least, New York cops weren't shit. Like, I don't know. I was 14. I wasn't going all the way out into all cops were assholes at this point in time. The only thing that happened at that point in time with us was Rodney King that I knew of. So, yeah. So Tony gives up he gives up the ghost. He snitches on where Stan can find Leon at. And Stan shows up with like a SWAT team, like an alpha team and an omega team. And they snatch up Matilda. She's coming back from the store. And they're like, hey, is there a secret knock that you use to let him know that you're outside? And she's like, yes. And so she uses the secret knock she tells him what the secret knock is. And the guy gets on the walkie-talkie and tells Stan, Alpha team's in final position. We're ready to go. And Stan says, and I quote, go.
Be careful.
And I don't think they listened because they go in And Leon can kill anything moving at any time in any place ever. And so he murders all of these SWAT members that are in his apartment. And honestly, I didn't know if this was his actual apartment, if they had went back to the first apartment, or if they were where they were at this point in time, because they've moved so many times. But basically, Leon knows the ins and outs of the entire place. And so he's reaching down from over the top of the door and just shooting people up and murdering everybody. And it gets to the point where he's killed pretty much, you know, everybody that's in the building with him. And so at that point, Stan gets told, you know, they're all dead. And so Stan is like, yo, send in everyone. And the guy is like, what do you mean? And Stan is like, everyone. And it's like such a great scene. I can't even do it justice.
Alpha team, man down, man down. I told you. Benny, bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Everyone! Like literally, bring me the whole police department. Everyone. And so the entire precinct comes down, go up against Leon. And it don't work. Leon stuffs Matilda into the wall, basically in a way reminiscent of how they escaped at the beginning of The Matrix, but stuffs her in the wall and's like, yo, don't come out until it's all said and done. And takes on the mob and wins until he's walking out. He walks out because he puts on a SWAT team uniform and walks out amongst the injured and the maimed who still have their limbs. And you think he's going to walk out scot-free.
Nope.
Until Stan walks up on him from behind and shoots him in the back of the head. And you see the light fade out on Leon. And Stan stands over him and they talk. God, I forgot this is the extended version. Why the fuck did they have him walking up on this motherfucker for like 3 minutes holding out a gun? Shit's on some Christopher Nolan Batman shit. So anyways, he walks up on Leon and he pulls the trigger and basically dome shots him. But before he dies, Stan comes over and is like, is there any last words? And Leon is like, are you Stan? And he's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, yeah, I have a message for you from Matilda. And so he puts something in his hands and then he dies. And Stan opens up his hand and it's a grenade, a pin for a grenade.
Stansfield, at your service. This is from Matilda.
And he opens up Leon's vest to find that while he gave him one ring, he's got like 8 explosives strapped to his chest. And so Stansfield dies in a blaze of glory as the entire bottom floor of this building gets blown out. So obviously Leon's dead. Stanfield's dead. Matilda's family's dead. The only thing that's not dead other than Matilda's the plant. So her and the plant go to another school, or go back to school rather, where she checks in and they're like, why were you gone for so long? And she was like, you really wouldn't believe it.
Didn't she tell the principal she was dead?
Yeah. Earlier, well, her mom, who had a deep voice like a guy, tells her that she was dead. And so she goes and sees Tony at first. And Tony's like, Leon's dead? And she's like, yeah, he's dead. And Tony's like, so what I'll do is I'll start giving you money. I'll give you like $100 here, $100 there. You know, Tony's like the bank, except I don't get knocked off. And that's when I was like, I hope Tony gets knocked off.
She living on her own?
Nope, she goes back
Leon's money?
off of Leon's money, but she goes back to the Spencer School and rings the doorbell and tries to smooth out her hair, and then tells the truth, kind of.
Died in a car accident 4 weeks ago. It was terrible.
You know, we didn't have the time to get to know one another when you first came here, but I want you to know that I'm not the kind of woman who'd let down a child, whatever her situation, whatever her mistake. So I'm going to help you and do my best to welcome you here again. But on one condition. You have to stop lying to me, Matilda. I want you to take a chance and trust me. Now tell me what happened to you.
Okay. My family got shot down by DEA officers because of a drug problem. I left with the greatest guy on earth. He was a hitman, the best in town. But he died this morning, and if you don't help me, I'll be dead by tonight.
I feel like the teacher was like, all right, she's still lying. Like, even though that music was playing, I feel like the teacher was like, you still in this book? I literally just opened up to you and you, motherfucker. All right, fine. So she takes her in and she goes and finally plants the plant that Leon had in the pot and carried with him everywhere. She plants it outside so it finally has roots. And that implies that she finally has roots. And she probably grows up to be a really well-maintained hit person. Because as soon as she's able, I'm sure she went back to Tony and was like, put me to work. I want to make more monies. And that's the end of the movie.
She's Black Widow.
More or less. Yeah. More or less. So, again, Brandon, with this being your first time seeing the movie, A, what'd you think? B, Stansfield's the shit, ain't he?
Yeah. I mean, he's the MVP. I mean, the movie's cool. It was a cool watch. I didn't watch the long ass version.
I was gonna say, stay away from that fucking extended version.
But I did like the movie a lot.
I think the regular version is like an hour and 30 minutes long. Something like that. And so the extended version, 1 hour and 8 minutes long?
No, 108 minutes.
Oh, so 1 hour and 48 minutes long. Which means the extended version is
133. Isn't that what you said, Shantae?
Yeah, it's over 2 hours.
It's 132 minutes long. So there's an extra 24 minutes of fuckery and her asking Leon to be her lover. Other things that could have been deleted from the movie were her and him playing the Guess Who type dress up game, where she dressed up like Madonna and danced around singing like a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all of that said, still for the most part enjoy this movie a lot. I thought Natalie Portman did a great job in her first role. She was young in this movie. Like, she was a little kid. This is like her motion picture debut. She was 12, or she was 11. I'm sorry. And I thought that she did incredible too. Gary Oldman did incredible. Jean Reno did what he does. I've seen him in other movies. I saw him in what? The Expendables. And same dude. I saw him in what else? The Five Bloods. Same dude. Alex Cross. Same dude. Couples Retreat, he wasn't the same dude, but he was close. He was just a freaky ass motherfucker. So I saw him in a lot of movies, and he does well being the same dude. Shantae, what were your thoughts?
I actually think that Natalie Portman is the MVP. Even though all the different stuff is really fucked up, like the stuff that she's having to do is fucked up, but she executes it in such a intense way that it's just, I think that if she had executed what she had to do in a way that didn't seem believable, that didn't seem like she was really a live person doing this, like she, whatever she did, whatever she tapped into to create this character, she did it. Like that was, it wasn't like Matilda. This is a real person that she was creating. And I think and that's why I think she's the MVP of the movie. But I also understand why what she tapped into made at least American audiences uncomfortable, because it was really real. It wasn't a 12-year-old kind of pretending something, kind of playing at it. It felt like that was a real, whatever you thought a real 12-year-old who understood whatever it is that they were attempting to do, whether they really could understand it once the rubber met the road, like for real, but just whatever she was attempting to do, she was really embodying what somebody might do in that situation. Like, I'm trying to flirt with you. This is what it looks like.
Very much so.
And so, you know, it's uncomfortable. It's not cool, but Natalie Portman, for lack of a better term, pulls off whatever this character is supposed to be. And you don't get that, like, for whatever Old Boy wrote, you don't get what we see without her pulling it off. And I think it speaks to how good of an actor she is.
Yeah.
Then, because she
at 11,
it's her.
At 11, like, yo, you know what? I didn't even think about it like that, but 11, without this movie, or without her in this movie, rather, don't nothing move without the money. And if she played this any other way, everybody would have been laughing at the role that she was playing. Like, it wouldn't have been an uncomfortable thing. I mean, it would have still been uncomfortable, but somebody else with less talent could have came in there and played it completely different, and would have been like you know who else I could have saw playing this role at that age and making it, like, doing this well of a job? And I hadn't seen her again for a really long time. What did I end up seeing her again on recently? Very recently. Anna Chlumsky, or Chumsky, or whatever, the girl's name, the girl from My Girl.
From My Girl, yeah.
She's the only other person I could have saw in this time era doing this role. What did I see her in recently? Because she did wonderfully in it as an adult. Now I'm gonna have to look it up, and I'm gonna have problems because her last name, not really hard to spell. Who fucking knew? It just looks like it's hard as hell to spell. But yeah, I could see that. Oh, she was in Veep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I saw her in recently, because I sat down and watched that whole show. She was hilarious. She was believable, and she was a good actress even back then. So I can definitely see Natalie getting the MVP out of this. I could see how she would have made Shit in the Sunshine, because honestly, if I'm her and I'm looking at this script, I'm like, wait, what? You want me to do what? And say what? And also shout out to her parents. Because if my parents had read that script, they would have been like, you want my kid to smoke and cuss, and you want her to hit on some old ass man constantly? Nah. We're going to pass on that one. And we're going to take this thing that Disney's got going on. Clarissa Knows It All or whatever the fuck. Like, you out your fucking mind, Luke.
And now she's Thor.
And now she's Thor. I can't fucking wait. Natalie Portman is such a fucking talent. And it was an absolute joy to see her doing this role. But like I said, that whole Guess Who segment of the movie was just fucking stupid. So I could do without that. Other trivia. Benny, the dude who was standing at the door when they burst into the Matilda's family's apartment and murdered everybody. Benny was the one who shot at Malky when he came out because he was so nervous. The big bald dude looked like he was black. His real name was Keith Glasgow. And he later became a member of the New York Fire Department. Ladder Company 21 in Hell's Kitchen. And courageously, he passed away in the collapse of the World Trade Center towers on September 11th. So love and respect. Shout out to him for that. Natalie Portman beat out 2,000 other actresses to get the role of Matilda. And the one thing that Natalie Portman's parents were worried about was the smoking. So they worked out a contract with Luke that there could only be 5 smoking scenes in the film, and that she could never be seen to inhale or exhale smoke, and that she would give up smoking during the course of the film. Which is dope.
So the parents say the only thing that they cared about was the smoking, right?
Was the smoking. Yep.
So it makes me wonder. It makes me feel like it goes back to how what our perceptions of what we're seeing is versus whatever the director is, whatever the parents are seeing, whatever the director is telling the parents is what's going on and everything. Because you would think that if they thought Natalie Portman was going to be in danger, put in an awkward position, come off as something other than a child, that they wouldn't have let her do it. Now, that's not a guarantee. You never know, because, show parents let kids do all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
But just to be like, oh, well, the only thing we was worried about was the smoking, not her, prancing around in a bra, not her asking for a man to kiss her or anything like that. I wonder what the director really said or what they saw in the script or whatever to make them feel like this isn't pedophilic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good question. And I don't think that there is a commentary. The some of the movies that I bought off Vudu have extra commentary tracks. This one doesn't. So not quite sure. Is this movie better or worse than The Fifth Element, Brandon?
I haven't seen The Fifth Element in a long time. I remember it being good, so I'm gonna say worse, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
Okay, you just wait. Just you wait. Just you wait. So, yeah, I think that about sums it all up. Oh, also, Liv Tyler was considered for the part of Matilda, but she was too old because she was 15.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That could have went, oh, man.
Yeah.
See, because this, and this is the other thing, too, is because thinking of Liv Tyler, like Liv Tyler is very shapely, is a shapely woman and was a shapely teenager.
Yes, there was a movie, Empire Records, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think she was even in a, what is it? That Crazy, I think is what it was. The video, with her and Alicia
Aerosmith.
Silverstone. Yeah, the Aerosmith video. Yeah. And so, yeah, she's clearly a tall woman and she is a shapely woman. And so, yeah, this would have hit way different with someone with a different body type. Yeah. And I feel like, yeah, there's a point where it feels like, on the one hand, it feels like it's supposed to be titillating or whatever, or weird. And on the other hand, because Natalie Portman is clearly a prepubescent girl, like clearly, that it almost seems plausible that Jean Reno's character really is not with it. It's just like, no, this is like, it almost feels plausible that he really is playing it as like, no, I'm not thinking about this at all. There is no temptation or anything. It's just like, I am not with it.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't think plays
with Liv Tyler,
with Liv Tyler, or a different body shape.
Yeah, definitely. Because at any given moment that she's on the screen, it feels like, and that's why that's why I said what I was saying, that it feels like it's almost like paternal. And then she keeps talking and you find out that it's not. But it's because of the way she looks. Like there's no I'm laughing, and I don't mean to laugh when I say this because it's actually pretty fucking uncomfortable. But there's no guile in her eyes when she's talking to this dude. She doesn't know how to look sultry or anything like that. Like she just looks like a kid who's talking to somebody, almost like she's playing house or something. Like, I'm going to work now. Here's my car. Vroom, vroom. If it was somebody else I don't know. I don't know a lot of actresses at that age, and I don't want to think about it. But yeah, I'm just glad that it worked out the way that it was. With her doing the role. But yeah, like we said, the original cut of the film had more scenes with awkward sexual tension, but those scenes were later cut out for the American release, but were included in the 1996 European release, as well as in the deleted scenes of the special edition DVD, which is what we saw. The yellow and green capsules that Stansfield takes is Librium, a sedative.
Oh, I just said, oh my God. Okay, I didn't know what that was. Because I didn't know I was curious what they were, but okay.
It's a sedative and hypnotic medication of the benzodiazepine class. It's used to treat anxiety, insomnia, and withdrawal symptoms from alcohol and or drug abuse.
Okay.
Which led to people theorizing that he was addicted to drugs, and that's why he was acting so erratically throughout the movie.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Let's see. God damn it. In the original script, Leon accidentally walks in on Matilda when she's in the bathroom. As Leon opens the door, she's naked and is just brushing her hair. He takes a towel and gives it to her. I'm so glad that they chose not to do these things, but the fact that he wrote it, I mean, I know that you did express that pretty eloquently, that maybe the parents knew that he was actually writing this and their child will be protected and all that. But reading this stuff is just like wild.
Yeah, it comes off weird. It comes off really, really, really weird. And I think in some ways, because the movie is shot well, like it looks good, that I just don't know if maybe that carries it over in some ways. Because like I looked at the reviews, not the reviews, but the stars, the ratings, and it's almost 5 stars.
Oh yes, Almost universally praised.
Yeah, like this is a highly rated movie, and yet it's still just kind of sketchy. And I hadn't ever seen the extended cut before, but even the other stuff, just the regular movie, it just felt like it was kind of sketchy or had a sketchy vibe around it. So, but you know, motherfuckers love it. You know, it's
because of Gary Oldman. As a reminder, Gary Oldman on Single Simulcast was voted number 2 on the villain list. I think he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. We only got like 3 people in there. If you want to know, I'll tell you because I don't really care. The 3 people, number 1 was Gary Oldman. Like he was inducted for all of his roles, including the guy that he played in the Fifth Element. The second person who was inducted into the Hall of Fame was Alan Rickman because of Hans Gruber and also because of Snape. And then I think that the third person that we elected was Dolores Umbridge. It was a wild time. Yeah. But yes. God, this movie. If you never watch the extended version, you'll think this movie's great. If you watch the extended version once, you will look at the extended version with a side eye like a motherfucker. But the movie is still a good action movie with a lot of extraneous shit that doesn't need to be in it. I think that's the best way to put it. With that said, next week.
More movies.
Huh?
More movies.
Yeah. But this next movie, Shantae, go ahead and turn on your video for a second. I need to look you right in the eye when I say this shit. Because for the next movie, we are going to a land far, far away in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Our next movie is Scott Pilgrim versus the motherfucking world.
Okay. Yeah.
Brandon's already shaking his head. I am thrilled. Brandon, you didn't like Scott Pilgrim?
I do. I've enjoyed this much. It's just an eclectic choice of films.
It's a very eclectic choice of films. You're right. It is. I was going to put Fresh on here, like I said, but I decided to do the movie we did last week instead. So, yeah. But Shantae, tell the folks where they can find you at, things of that nature.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on social media, I am at Shantae Fabulous. That is SHANTA and Fabulous spelled like the word, not the rapper. And outside of that, yeah, that's it. I'm everywhere, Shantae Fabulous on social media.
You know, Shantae, you listen to podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 podcasts that I really want you to check out. They're both made by the same person. One is called Mogul, and it's by this guy named Brandon Jenkins. And every single season, he examines something that happened in hip hop. One season, he talked about Uncle Luke and the Miami bass scene. One season, he talked about, I want to say, Tupac and Biggie, or that might have been on his other show, Slow Burn, but I think it was on Mogul. And this season, he's talking about DJ Screw. And it's really, really interesting. And then the other show that he did is with this guy from ESPN named Shea Serrano. And it's a show called No Skips. And they talk about classic hip hop albums. And so they did Stankonia by Outkast already. And they did It's Dark and Hell is Hot by DMX. And this next week they're doing Thug Religion 101 by Jeezy.
Okay.
But it's really dope. I think y'all both will like that one.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, you, on the other hand, true crime type shit. I will send you a list because I have an absolute list of motherfuckers. on Twitter that you should follow, and then check out their shows because their stuff is all dope.
Okay.
Everybody, thank you so much for checking us out. You can leave a review for us on Podchaser. The cool thing about Podchaser is that you can leave a review for the episode or the show as a whole. I'd like for you to do both. You can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts and on Stitcher. You can email us at hindsightmoviereviews@gmail.com. That's REVUES. We're on Twitter at hindsightreview. That's REVUES. Brandon's on Twitter at that cool Blick nerd. That's BLK. I'm on Twitter at Rashani. Become a Patreon member at patreon.com/singlesimulcast. The cool thing about that is we have a whole lot of like bonus content, like a whole bunch from all of our different shows. And you can also help us get movies by going to buymeacoffee.com/SScast. Voicemail number is 916-633-1537. Yeah. I think that's about it. Thank you all so much for listening. We do greatly appreciate it. Y'all be good. We're going to holler at you later. Peace. The music for Hindsight is Coffee by Cambo Smith, and it's from the Free Music Archive.
This is Single Simulcast.
Don't know by now that you slip.